Well, hello. So we're going to start Zero Escape, 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors, and we are going to get the true ending of the game. That will be where we're going to stop for this one. So to get the true ending for the game, it says that you have to answer certain things while going through the following path. Door 4, which we've done here. Door 7, which is over here. And then door 1, which is over here. And that should give us this guy down here who is supposedly the true ending. So let's go ahead and make sure that we have the green flow line going through all those. So to do that, I will be using some of the skip functionality just to go over the stuff we've already done in the stream. You don't need to see it again. If you want to see that stuff, you can always go back to previous sessions and check that out. So let's go ahead and do this.
Well, we really don't have a choice now.
We're going through door 7. So we're gonna have to play through the escape sequences again on this path, because I think some of the dialogue options that we have to respond in certain ways to only happen if we go down this path and pick those options. Alright, we're gonna have to seek a way out. This is door 7, we've been through here before. One moment. Alright, operating table, yeah. Get the scalpel. Yep, belong. We're getting the forceps. In the long. Organ key. Alright, you got that. It's unlocked. Yeah. Ethyl alcohol. Nah, I won't. Hey Junpei, there's some dihydrogen monoxide on the shelf. That joke never gets old. Why didn't you say water? Looks like a can with a spray nozzle. It says CO2. Carbon dioxide. Alright. Taking that. Blue liquid. The red liquid. On the table. Yep. It's locked. Passcode. Yeah, let's give it a shot. Okay. Arm. Heart.
You think we should go back?
Yeah, I think that's probably. Hey, Seven, what's up?
Oh,
Is that a medicine bottle?
I got curious about it. Here.
New stuff.
Ethylene diamine
Nope.
tartrate?
Yeah, that's right. CDT.
What kind of medicine is that?
It's not medicine. I think it's an industrial strength detergent.
Why would they have something like that here?
Why?
Well, probably to clean stuff up.
Clean what up?
Fucking behind her. Still. Looks like it's cleaned my brain up.
You remember something?
Yeah. Well, I remember a story about EDT. Happened about 50 years ago. There was this factory somewhere in America making big oldie.
Yeah, we already know this bit.
Like the molecules were communicating with one another, transmitting information in a way humans couldn't perceive. This phenomena spread throughout the world, right?
Yeah, that's it exactly. But how did you know?
I heard another story, kind of like that one.
When?
In the freezer?
What? The freezer?
Yeah, June told me.
Ice that doesn't melt at room temperature, huh?
That sounds familiar?
Yeah, hold up. I feel like I can remember something. It's
Ice 9
there.
from Vonnegut.
Do you know about Ice 9?
Ice 9? Ice 9. Ice 9. Ice.
Suddenly Seven's eyes shot open.
That's it. I remember now. That woman, she's on this boat.
That woman?
Alice!
Who's Alice?
Come on. The woman who won't melt at room temperature.
Wait, what?
Huh?
It became clear to Seven that Junpei had no idea what he was talking about. He ran a hand across his face.
You know how the Titanic sank on April 15th, 1912, right?
Well, yeah.
More than 1,500 people died. Worst maritime accident in history. What about it?
Did you hear about the boat that was sent to collect the dead bodies?
No.
I think that was the RMS Carpathia, right?
Man.
It was
I
a
don't know
cruise
this
liner, just like the Titanic.
No, that was the ship that picked up the survivors.
Okay.
The ship that collected the dead bodies was the CS McKay Bennett.
Okay.
McKay Bennett showed up on April 17th, 2 days after the accident.
Okay.
It set out from Halifax, a port in Canada, and recovered 306 bodies.
Okay.
The Atlantic that far north was really cold. It would have to be for there to be icebergs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the bodies they pulled out of the water were frozen solid.
This isn't a very nice story. So, what happened next?
Well, they say the McKay Bennett recovered something more than just dead bodies. There were various bits of stuff floating around in the water. Things the drowned had carried with them, or stuff that dislodged as the ship sank. One of the things they found was a coffin.
Okay.
A coffin?
Yeah, a
A
coffin.
wooden one. The craftsman who made it must have been pretty skilled.
Okay.
It wasn't just a wooden coffin.
Mm-hmm.
It was all wood. No nails, no reinforcements, no gaps in the wood anywhere. The thing was airtight.
Okay.
The crew got pretty curious about what might be inside it and opened it up. They had to get a wedge and hammer it open. It was so well made. Inside, they found a woman. Or, I guess you should say, they found the dead body of a woman.
Okay.
Her hair was thick and black, and her skin was brown with no blemishes or signs of decomposition.
Odd.
They say that she looked gorgeous, like a goddess.
Okay.
She was obviously dead, but everyone who looked at her said she just looked like she was sleeping. Her skin was so lifelike, she looked like she might wake up any minute. She didn't. Like the rest of the bodies they found, she was frozen solid. Eventually, the McKay Bennett finished searching and returned to Halifax. The 306 bodies were unloaded and taken ashore. However, it was warm enough that they began to thaw. They say that the stink was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
But there was one body that didn't thaw. And that was...
The girl in the coffin.
That's right. Everybody thought for sure that she'd melt and start to rot like the rest of them eventually. But weeks passed and nothing happened. Then a month passed, and another. It was summer, and she was still frozen solid. After a while, people started to say she was some sort of miracle. Rumors about her started to spread. People came to visit Halifax from all over. After a while, people started to call her All Ice. Alice. Of course, those rumors didn't last long.
Why?
Well, she up and disappeared. One day Alice was there, the next day she wasn't.
Okay.
They say someone snuck into where they were keeping her and stole the body. With the body gone, the rumors followed pretty quickly. And after a while, no one remembered her. You might be able to find something about her if you could find a newspaper from back then, but that's about it.
Wait, you just said that she was on this boat.
Yeah, I did. Alice has got to be somewhere on this ship.
Now why the hell would you say something like that?
Because I know.
And just what is it you know?
What happened to Alice after she was stolen.
Oh, really?
Alright, tell me. What happened to Alice?
Well, around that time, the word was that there was a special black market in New York. All millionaires from all over the world.
Okay.
I've heard that Alice went up for auction there. The person who won the auction was Lord Dashiell Gordain. You've heard that name before, right?
Lord Gordain. Oh, isn't he the guy who bought the Gigantic? The Titanic's sister ship?
Yeah, that's him. Although I guess he hadn't done that yet.
What do you mean?
Gordain bought Alice in 1912. 4 years later, in 1916, he bought the Gigantic. And he hid Alice somewhere on the Gigantic. But nobody knows where. He died in 1931. And apparently he died without ever telling anyone where Alice was hidden. However,
However, what?
Well, he did have one close friend who asked him, "Where is Alice?" And he said, "Alice sleeps in a small chamber past the Forest of Knowledge beneath the navel of the Gigantic."
What the hell is that? Is it some kind of riddle?
Your guess is as good as mine. So that's it. Whatever you think, I believe it. She's hidden somewhere on the Gigantic. In other words, she's hidden somewhere on this ship.
Okay, if you think this is the Gigantic.
Hey, what are you two doing over there?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Stop wasting time and get over here.
Yeah.
Okay, we're coming.
Jeez.
Yeah, so anyway, that's the story. It might be useful someday. Don't forget it.
Alice. Huh.
Yeah, Jupiter's left to ponder what he had just heard.
That mummy wasn't just a normal mummy. They say that she was frozen. The story says that from the time of its discovery all the way through to when it got put on the Titanic. Even though it was carried through the desert, her body never melted.
Then was that Egyptian priestess Alice?
Never know.
Did the water in her body become Ice 9?
Hmm.
No, that's nuts. There's no way somebody like that could exist.
Junpei shook his head, trying desperately to clear it, and followed Seven to the operating room where Culver was waiting. Okay, we got one key. Yep. Yep. Cool, it's unlocked. Ooh. Piece of paper. Medical record. Yeah, we gotta shift the weight between the two mannequins. Nothing left. Alright, we are red liquid. Leg. Blue liquid. Leg. Red liquid. Blue liquid. Yep. Nothing left inside. Sink. Yep. Light switch doesn't seem to be working. Alright. What the hell are you doing? I'm tired. Alright. No, other way. Big chest. Nothing on the litter of the drawers. Yep. Nothing there. Alright, wait, no, we're not doing that. Heater, nothing inside it. It's pipe going outside. Nothing. Alright, we're going over to... Alright. Do I have to check the actual file? Yeah. All right. Yeah. All right. So, purple liquid. What wanted to do? All right, got that. Hmm. 6 parts, alright. Her name, I think. Let's see, Lucy. It says Lucy right here. Yeah, right. Well, it doesn't look like John is missing any of his parts. So the one we've got must be for Lucy, right? Yeah. Seems like it. So we give Lucy her parts back. Any objections? Nope. Agreed. Alright, let's get this started. Combine. Alright. Nothing happened. That's odd. Maybe it's the wrong weight? Wait. Yeah, well, you know, there's a scale on the side of the bed. Maybe we need to get the scale to a specific number. How are we going to do that? You're supposed to swap her body parts with John's? Oh, let's give it a shot. Operating instructions. Yep. 2 medical mannequin. Yeah. I heard something. It came from John's operating table. You better check it out. The lid on the scale. Hey, a key. It opened. Oh, I get it. Must have opened because we matched John's weight to the table, to what's on the chart. A white cloth.
Hey, hold on.
Hold on one second.
Oh, what's up?
Where's Clover?
Huh?
Huh? Junpei turned around. Clover is nowhere to be seen.
God damn it. Where the hell did she go?
Where did she go?
Okay, just hold on a minute. I'll go get her.
Alright.
Sure thing.
He found her standing next to the operating table. She was staring at the mannequin.
Clover, what's wrong? Come on, let's get out of here.
She didn't respond. If she hadn't been standing up and breathing, Junpei might have thought she was
What are you
dead.
doing? Did you want to come back here and say goodbye to John?
Now's not the time for humor, Junpei. It wasn't the best joke, but it was something, an attempt to lighten the mood. Clover didn't laugh. She stood stock still and said nothing.
Hey, Clover, can you hear me?
Perhaps it was something he'd said, or perhaps it was something else. Suddenly her mouth opened and she whispered in a dry, dead voice.
My brother might be dead.
Huh?
That's why we couldn't find him. If he's dead, I'm going to be next.
Suddenly the operating room felt very, very cold.
What are you talking about? What's wrong with you?
He gave her a small shake, but she didn't respond. The silence grew heavier. What do you want to do? Give her the 4-leaf clover.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't know why, but suddenly Junpei remembered something he had been given earlier.
It's in my pocket somewhere. Here it is.
He reached into his pocket and dug it out.
A 4-leaf clover.
Santa had given it to him in the second classroom. He held it out to Clover.
Hey, did you know? Each leaf means something. Hope, faith, love, and luck. That's what a 4-leaf clover stands for. Take it. Use it as a good luck charm.
He pressed the 4-leaf clover into her hand.
Listen to me, Clover. No matter what happens, you can never lose hope. You have to remember what's most important, and that's to have faith and to have love. If you can remember all of those, that'll bring you good luck. Snake, I mean, your brother, he's not dead.
Are you sure about that?
He's alive, somewhere. I'm sure of it. You've just gotta believe in that.
Clover stared at the 4-leaf clover in her hand. You could see tears start to form in the corners of her eyes.
Thank you.
Her voice was tiny and broken, and as she spoke, she started to cry. She tried to hide her tears by looking at the floor, but it did little good. She wiped away the tears with baggy arms of her jacket, but more quickly took their place. No matter how she tried, she couldn't stop crying. Her tears made small, wet circles on the floor. Let's see where we're at. Not quite there yet.
Thank you.
She said it again. Then she looked up at Junpei and seemed to choke down the last of her grief. She did her best to smile. Junpei wiped an errant tear from her cheek with his thumb and gave her the best smile he could manage.
Come on. Seven's waiting for us at the exit.
Still, she didn't move.
Before we go, there's one thing I want to ask you.
Okay, ask me.
What's that?
What do you think when you hear the word experiment?
For a moment, his mind froze. Then he came back to his senses and realized the word meant nothing to him aside from the dictionary definition.
What?
Oh. I guess it was just a coincidence then. I mean, that you knew about the 4-leaf clover.
Look, I'm sorry. I don't want to be a jerk, but you are making.
Oh, no. It's nothing. Just forget about it.
Oh, don't give me that. You really think I could just drop this? What is this experiment you were talking about?
Clover looked away. The 4-leaf clover was still in her hand. She stared at it for a long moment and then finally spoke.
You promise you won't tell anyone?
Cross my
Okay.
heart.
Really?
No, I mean really.
Really?
I can trust you, right?
Trust is in bold.
Of course you can.
Clover slipped the 4-leaf clover into her pocket. Her eyes still red from crying. She looked up at
Okay
Junpei.
then. I'll tell you. I'll tell you what happened on this ship 9 years ago.
Wait, what?
Wait. On this ship?
Yeah, this ship.
This ship. He was entirely lost. He had 1,000 questions, but it was probably best, he thought, to save them until Clover had finished.
It was an experiment to test some sort of psychic thing. Communicating through these fields that you can't see.
Morphogenetic?
Fields that you can't see?
You'd heard something like this before. Clover nodded.
Think about this.
She pointed at the operating table. On top of it was a somewhat mismatched medical mannequin whose parts had been swapped with another mannequin.
This is John, right? But is he really John?
Oh man, are we going into the ship of Theseus kind of philosophical debate?
Huh?
All Junpei could think was, she has finally completely lost it.
Isn't this like Locke's socks?
Okay, I was thinking ship of Theseus, but if we're going for something else, please inform me.
Or the ship of Theseus?
There we go. That's more what I know. I don't know about Log Socks, but ship of Theseus I do know about. Junpei grew even more confused. He'd never heard of either of those things, although they sounded smart.
You don't know? You haven't heard of those paradoxes?
I mean, I've heard of the ship of Theseus, but let's carry on. Please explain. Junpei shook his head. Clover laughed.
Okay, well pay attention then. This is how Locke's socks works.
Okay.
Let's say I've got a pair of socks. They're my favorite socks.
Okay, I've never had a favorite pair of socks, but I own like 24 pairs of the same kind of sock.
One of them gets a hole in it.
That's a bummer.
What would you do if that was your sock, Junpei?
I would throw it away, but according to the guide for the best ending, I'm gonna say patch it up. And by okay, that might have blown out the audio a little bit. Patch it up. There we go.
Well, I guess I'd patch it up, get some cloth, and close up the hole.
But what if another hole opens?
I'd add another patch, I suppose.
He supposes.
What if another hole opened after that?
Another patch, I guess?
Well, let's say you just keep adding new patches until eventually the original cloth of the sock is totally gone. Once you get to that point, can you really say they're the same socks you started with?
I think the ship of Theseus is a better explanation of this concept.
Well, that's tough.
Or the axe. You've got a blade and you've got a handle. 2 parts. Which one is the axe?
So, that's the lock socks thing?
Yeah, the ship of Theseus is a lot like it. The ship of Theseus. If you keep fixing the damaged parts of a ship, eventually it ends up with none of the parts it started with. Can you really say that ship is the same one you started with?
A lot of people in modern times tend to attribute this to something like say an electric guitar, where you have a neck, a body, and electronics, tuning keys, hardware.
And what if you took all the old parts from the first ship and built another one somewhere else?
Exactly. Like if you replace the neck of a guitar, you replace the body of a guitar, you replace The bridge, the tuners, the electronics. Is it still the same guitar? One at a time over time.
Then which ship is the real ship of Theseus? The one you repaired, or the one you built with all the original parts?
It was an interesting question. Clover could see Junpei was intrigued.
Hey, do you think it's the same?
I gotta sneeze. Okay, done sneezing.
What's the same?
These guys. Is this John, or is it Lucy now?
Good questions. Good philosophical, tough questions. Junpei looked at the operating table again. I mean, in my mind, continuity is the thing that matters. The thread of... You have to follow the thread of the parts being replaced. And what is the continuity? That's going to tell you the identity of things that are replaced. Clover had been right. It was just like Lock Socks and the ship of Theseus. Part of the body that holds the person's identity is the head. Of course, for many hundreds of years, conventional wisdom held that a man's identity resided in his heart, or any number of internal organs. And here, they had both.
John's head and heart are both his. But apart from those, and a single arm, the rest of his body was once Lucy's.
Was that mannequin really John?
We're just like these mannequins.
She looked at Junpei again.
Think about it. The cells in our body change every day. Old ones die and new ones are born.
Absolutely. It's the continuity that matters.
Maybe part of my arm is made of stuff from a fish I ate once. Or maybe part of your right side is made from a cow you ate.
Yep.
If you take it a little further,
Yep.
those cows and fishes are made from something else too, right?
Yep.
That's how we're all connected, through fields that can't be seen with the naked eye.
Absolutely. Silence was broken by 7.
Hey, what the hell is taking you two so long?
At this point, I think we have all the keys. Not yet. 7's head appeared in the doorway. He was not
How
happy.
long are you gonna make me wait? We don't have time to screw around.
Junpei and Clover looked at each other. Clover looked at Junpei as if to say there was more she wanted to tell him. She shook her head. Whatever she had to tell him, she didn't want to tell him in front of 7. 7 seemed to catch on.
What were you two doing? Was this some sort of secret meeting?
Absolutely. Now get out.
No, it wasn't. We were just playing with the mannequins.
Oh, really?
Let's go, Junpei.
Moving a little bit too fast to be entirely innocent, Clover headed toward the exit. 7 stared after her, then turned to Junpei with an amused expression.
Playing with mannequins, huh? Didn't
Yeah.
know you were into that kind of thing, Junpei.
Yeah, and what of it? Are you kink shaming me?
You're a dick.
This is probably the best line in the game. Junpei saying to 7, "You're a dick." I could see him saying that also to Santa, Lotus. Some things Clover might say. Junpei dashed past him and traced Clover's path out of the door. With a short laugh, 7 followed. They stood in front of the door. Junpei took out the Jupiter key.
I'm gonna open it now. Is that cool?
Is that cool? Hey, we got everything we need. Alright,
You don't
cool.
need to keep asking, just do it, alright?
They turned the keyhole, and if he felt it unlock. The door opened with a soft, melancholy creak. Beyond it lay a simple, wide hallway. There was no fanfare or confetti. I'll give you some fanfare or confetti. Obviously, there was no one there to applaud them. They simply walked through the door, and that was it.
All right, let's get going.
Hey man, what's up with you?
What is up with me?
You're so serious, you know?
Why so serious?
Can't you sound more happy, you know, get a little excited?
Not really.
Not really. Junpei turned away from Seven and took his first step down the simple white hallway.
My brother might be dead. I'm going to be next.
I don't know about that. Clover had told him only a few minutes before that her brother was probably dead and she was likely to follow him.
Like hell I can. Not after hearing something like that.
I found it. Cool. Let's look at the flow. Cool. We are going to move over to here.
One, two, three, four. All right, 7 people.
We go through all of the stuff. We've played through all this before. We're gonna go through door number 1.
I didn't really want to go through door 2 anyway.
Let's check where we're on the flow. We're not there yet. Just fast forward through everything because we've played through all this stuff before. We're going through the one door. We find the dead captain. I don't know if I need to play through this again. Let me see if I can just jump past this.
Oh, a hallway.
Seek a way out. We've already done this, so I'm going to skip past it yet again. They stopped outside of the captain quarters and into another hallway. The hallway stretched out in front of Junpei for a bit before turning left like a great black backward L.
All right, let's go.
Junpei rounded the corner and took off down the straightaway. He ran and ran and ran. At the end of the hallway was a door. He made straight for it.
A piece of paper.
He was nearly halfway to it when he noticed a piece of paper in the middle of the floor. Junpei skidded to a halt, dropped down to his hands and knees, and quickly tore the paper off the floor.
Map of the ship's interior for A-Deck.
What's wrong?
Ace, slightly slower by virtue of his advanced age, had finally caught up to Junpei.
I found a map for this floor.
He showed Ace what he had snatched from the wall. He looked at it for long enough to determine what it was and then nodded. With that, he began running again past
Well,
Junpei.
that was anticlimactic. I should keep this though.
You should. Junpei shoved the map into his pocket and got up to follow Ace, but something stopped him.
Where's Clover?
He turned around. Clover was nowhere to be seen.
What the hell is she up to?
Junpei muttered angrily under his breath and then took off back the way he'd come. He stomped around the corner and he saw her. She was standing in front of the door to the captain's quarters, her hand on the doorknob.
Clover!
Huh?
As Junpei watched, she closed it gently and quietly.
What the hell are you doing?
Nothing.
What do you mean, nothing?
Clover had unconsciously put her hands over the pockets of her jacket as if to hide something.
What the hell is that?
What the hell is that?
You've got something in your pocket.
Oh, this? I wonder.
What the hell?
Come on, we gotta hurry.
Really, do we? Let's see what we're on the flow.
Clover, what's that on your back? A stick? Hey, Clover!
Alright. Skipping ahead, I have a sneaking suspicion this.
Come on, just follow us. We'll explain on the way.
Okay.
Alright. They found door number 9.
Well, if that's... Wait for me.
We should get going as well.
The rest followed.
Jumpy, we finally made it.
Relief and excitement in her voice echoed what each one of them felt.
It's finally time.
It's finally time. Junpei wasn't quite ready to believe that they'd really done it. At least not yet. Still, if everyone said that it was door number 9, then it probably was.
We've reached the end.
He could feel his heart racing. A mixture of anticipation and fear ran through his veins, and he could feel his legs shaking. He was doing his best to maintain a sense of healthy skepticism, but he couldn't deny that the prospect of escape was an exciting one.
Something's bothering me. Only 3 to 5 people can go through the numbered door. 7 of us are on our way to door 9. That means that, best case scenario, there will be 2 of us who have to stay behind. 2 people. Is there a way?
Junpei looked over at the clock.
4:30.
I think I need to play through those escape sequences again, so let me go back up. Alright, I gotta play through these. Okay. I was wrong. I do have to play through these. So let's do that. Where are we on the one door? Ship's log supplemental. It's light. Wooden box, maybe the case for letters. Clever have you written letters? Nothing. The right drawer. Let's have a look. Nothing. Left drawer. Let's have a look. Nothing. Center drawer. A pocket watch. Alright.
Pocket watch.
Hey, man. What are you doing over in this room?
Yeah, what are you doing over
Oh, I
this?
just thought I'd come check up on the 2 of you. Is there a problem?
Yeah, there is.
Ace's eyebrows went up.
You checked on us. Now get out of here. We split this stuff up for a reason, all right? That's a lie. We didn't have to split up the work. I just want to talk to Clover alone. That's why I sent Ace to the wheelhouse. There's
Good
something I
stuff.
want to ask her. And I don't want anyone to overhear us.
Oh,
I'm pretty
good.
sure Clover won't talk if there's anyone else around. That's why when Ace showed up again, I got a little desperate. I had to make him leave.
Okay.
Oh, I see. Of course.
Look, Junpei over. Then glance at Clover.
I apologize for the intrusion.
Okay.
Well, best of luck.
Yeah, get out of here. Ace gave Junpei a knowing pat on his shoulder and left. Junpei let out a sigh and brushed a few drops of sweat off from his forehead. He turned and found himself looking straight into Clover's eyes. She heard what Ace had said. She regarded Junpei with a caution.
What's that about?
She was clearly suspicious and with good reason.
Why are you looking at me like that?
Junpei's eyes widened and he held up his hands in a gesture of
Oh,
innocence.
no, it's not like that.
What's it like then?
What's it like then?
I just wanted to hear the rest of that story. I didn't get a chance to ask you about it until now.
What story?
About the experiment, remember? The one you started to tell me in the operating room? You said something about an experiment that happened here 9 years ago.
Clover bit her lip. She stared down at the floor for several long moments, and when she spoke, it was barely audible.
Sorry, but I don't want to talk about that right now. I'm just not in the mood, okay? You understand, right? I keep thinking about my brother.
Yeah.
I can't stop. I mean, who would do something like that to my brother? I can't forgive them. I'm not gonna let them get away with it. They're gonna pay for it. I promise. So...
Her shoulders were shaking. Drops of blood had sprung up on her lips where she was biting them. That's a bit extreme. She wiped it off and looked up at Junpei with her eyes fierce and angry.
Junpei, who do you think did it?
Her voice was cold and scarcely above a whisper. Junpei gulped.
Well, if what Seven said was right, then there would have to be at least 2 of them.
Not necessarily.
You need at least 3 people to open the numbered doors, and if you subtract Snake, that means there were at least 2 other people.
No, you're wrong. There only needs to be 2 bracelets. 2 other bracelets.
You're right. So, what does that mean?
Well, if we just look at the bracelet numbers, we should be able to figure it out. Who could have opened door 3 with Snake? Well, really, who and who, or who and who?
You mean it could have been 4 people?
Well, technically it's possible.
I don't know. That doesn't seem very likely.
Why?
I'll tell you later.
Okay.
Why don't we just assume it was only 2 other people for now?
Okay, got it. Let's do that then.
Then who do you think it could be?
Junpei crossed his arms and thought. Snake's bracelet was number 2. Which 2 bracelet numbers added to 2 would give a digital root of 3? That would be 1, 2, 3, and 6. Ace and June would be 1, 6, and 2. That would be 9. 1, 6, and 2. Yep. Ace and 7 would be 1. Because 2 and 7 is 9. Plus 1. Ace and Lotus would be 9 plus 2. Santa in June would be 3, 6, and 2. 3 plus 6 is 9, plus 2 is 11.
It was Santa in June?
No.
The digital root for Snake, Santa, and June is 2.
I accidentally hit the button on my controller.
Nope, they couldn't open door. Besides, there's no way in hell June is a murderer.
No.
What am I doing?
Santa and 7, that would be 10 plus 2 is 12. That is possible. 12, the digital root would be 3. Santa plus Lotus would be 3 plus 8 is 11 plus 2, that would be 4. June and 7 is 6 plus 7 is 13. 13 plus 2 is 15. That would be 6. June and Lotus. 6 and 8 would be 14. Plus 2 is 16. That would be 7. 7 and Lotus. That would be 15. Plus 2 is 17. That would be 8.
Would it be Santa and 7? The digital root for Snake, Santa, and 7 is 3. Wait, hold on. Are Santa and 7 the killers?
What's wrong?
Clover looked at Junpei and he looked back at her. There was no point in hiding it.
I thought about it.
He told her his conclusions. Has no one thought about picking up the dead man's bracelet from 9? She looked less surprised than he'd expected.
Santa and 7. If it was 2 people, then that's the only combination that works.
No, because 9, 1, and 2 make 3.
Hey, wait a minute there. Don't you think it's a little too early to be jumping to conclusions? Well, all I said is that those 2 would have been able to open door 3 with your brother. There might be other possibilities.
Well, what other possibilities?
He didn't have an answer. He was ready to admit defeat when Clover spoke. Oh, let me see if we're here. We're still here.
Are you saying you think that it was 3 or 4 people? I really don't think that's likely.
Why not?
Can I borrow your pen and paper?
Clover put a hand out expectantly.
Yeah, here.
Junpei pulled out his pen and pad of paper and handed them to her. She opened the notebook and wrote down several simple addition problems. Eventually she had 8, which provided a digital root of 3. Two plus 1 plus 3 plus 6 equals 12. 2 plus 1 plus 4 plus 5 equals 12. 2 plus 4 plus 7 plus 8 equals 21. 2 plus 5 plus 6 plus 8 equals 21. 2 plus 1 plus 3 plus 7 plus 8 equals 21. 2 plus 1 plus 4 plus 6 plus 8 equals 21. 2 plus 1 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 equals 21. 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 7 equals 21.
What's this?
These are the combinations for 3 or 4 people. These 8 combinations are the only possible ones.
Has nobody thought about picking up the number 9 bracelet? Oh well,
I
whatever.
see.
Junpei,
Yeah?
I can trust you, right?
Of course. Why would you need to ask that?
Really?
Yeah.
So then I should get rid of B, D, G, and H, right?
Of course. Just cross them out. And you should take off yours too. The ones with 4.
So, what does that leave?
A and E.
Ace and Santa are always involved.
Wait, it can't be A.
Why?
Because June's in that one. There's no way in hell she'd do something like that.
Are you sure?
I'd bet my life on it.
Okay then. I can cross off A too, right?
Yeah.
Well, what have we got left?
E.
Ace, Santa, 7, and Lotus.
Do you know what this means?
everyone besides me, you, and June would be working together.
Do you think that's likely? If there were 4 people working together, they wouldn't be very cautious. I don't think they'd try that hard to hide what they were doing if they outnumbered us, right?
Well, you do have a point.
And besides, if Ace and Seven are working together, they could have easily gotten rid of me when I went to the shower room with them. But
True.
they didn't. They didn't even try anything. If they were killers, why wouldn't they?
Her voice was calm, but Junpei had only to look in her in the eye to know it was a forced calm. There were tears forming at the corners of her eyes, and she was blinking furiously to keep them back. Perhaps by attempting an objective analysis of who might have killed her brother, she had been able to distance herself from the harsh reality of his death. The more she struggled to act unconcerned, the more Junpei felt his heart tighten.
Oh. I see. Anyway, I understand now. It seems pretty unlikely that it was as many as 3 or 4 people.
Yeah, I agree.
And that means there's a good chance it was Santa and Seven.
That's how it looks.
But why would they do it?
There was a moment of silence.
Their motive.
He laid his hand gently on her shoulder. He was close, so close to the answer. When Ace chose the worst possible moment to return. He raised a knowing eyebrow and then spoke.
Have I interrupted something?
Yes.
What is it?
There was something I wanted to speak with you about, Junpei. Could you come with me for a moment?
He turned on his heel and walked back toward the wheelhouse.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Junpei looked over at Clover. He gave her a short nod, hoped that she would be willing to talk to him again later, and followed Ace.
What did you want to talk about?
Are we? Ace looked at Junpei and smiled, perhaps more of a smirk than a
There
smile.
was something I wanted to check.
1 second, I'll be right back. Gotta use the bathroom. Okay, back. Hold on 1 second. Okay. There's something that Ace wanted to check.
Yeah? What's that?
If you'll excuse me.
In no warning, Ace slipped his hand into the pocket of Junpei's
Hey,
vest.
what the hell are you doing?
I'm just checking.
No, stop.
He reached for Ace's arm. It was already too late. In the older man's hand were the pieces of paper Junpei had balled up and hidden in his
Just
pocket.
as I thought. What exactly are these pieces of paper hiding in your pocket? You switched them, didn't you, when we voted? Well, I can't say that I care.
You don't care.
I managed to get through the numbered door I wanted, despite your mischief.
Oh, really?
Then why did you...
Oh, simple curiosity. I hope you won't think ill of me for it.
Ace smiled, gave Junpei a friendly pat on the shoulder, and then turned on his heel and left. It was a small defeat, but it was a defeat. Junpei had lost the upper hand, and he knew it. He could feel his stomach begin to tense.
Damn.
Yeah, I agree. Hmm. 1 second. Okay, we're in the wheelhouse now. Other side of the window. This isn't good. So many drawers, but nothing inside of them. The compass that appears to be broken, however. Where are we in the flow of things? Okay, we got one of the keys. We need to get 2 more. Actually, you know what? I can jump past this now that I've played that part. Cool.
A halt's far too narrow to be called one.
Yes. We're gonna file it in the drawer. Junpei reached down and picked it up.
Looks like there's something on the cover. A-L-L-I-C-E.
All ice.
All ice. Alice. Does this...
Junpei couldn't hold back. He had to know what was in that file. Each page was covered with strange characters. They looked like tiny drawings of birds, snakes, insects, horned animals, wings, and even kneeling humans. There were many pages in the file, and each was full of these strange symbols.
What is this?
What the hell is this? He didn't realize he'd spoken out loud until Ace looked over at him.
They are hieroglyphs, a form of writing used in... So it would seem.
Bottom deck. Library. Oh!
Junpei remembered something he'd heard from Seven when they had been in the chemical closet.
Seven said something like...
Alice sleeps in a small chamber past the forest of knowledge beneath the navel of the gigantic.
Could beneath the navel mean the bottom deck? And the forest of knowledge is the library? Then could Alice be in a room somewhere beyond the library?
What's wrong? Something on your mind?
Junpei blinked. Only then did he notice that Ace looking at him curiously. Curiosity and concern written across the face in equal parts.
Yeah. I just remembered something.
Is that so? What about?
Well, don't laugh, okay?
There's no reason for Junpei to hide his thoughts. He began to explain his theory to Ace. Then he stopped. It wouldn't make any sense if Ace didn't know who Alice was supposed to be. So he told Ace everything June had told him.
The Egyptian priestess, an Ice 9. Interesting.
Very interesting.
And the woman who wouldn't melt, who was recovered from the Titanic disaster? They called her All Ice, and she was purchased by an English millionaire who called himself Lord Gordain. According to Seven, this ship is where he hid Alice.
And you think that he hid her in a small room, beyond the library on the bottom deck?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is just a theory.
He stared off into the distance, his hands slowly and absentmindedly stroking his beard. After a few moments, his hand stopped. He turned slowly to look at Junpei, and as his brows drew together.
Junpei, have you ever heard of the term CAS?
No, I haven't.
Cass?
It stands for Cells Alive System. It is an advanced technology for freezing and preserving organic matter. Put simply, it is a technique that allows one to freeze things without the formation of ice crystals.
Okay.
Normally, if you freeze something fresh, water within its cells expands as it crystallizes, damaging the cell membrane. CAS, however, works differently. The object to be frozen is supercooled using magnetic fields, and then frozen instantly and uniformly, giving ice crystals no time to form. It was originally developed for the preservation of food, as an alternative to the normal freezing process.
Sounds reasonable.
Now, however, there are rumors that it can be used for other things.
Other things.
What do you mean, other things?
Well, there are obvious medical uses, but perhaps also space travel.
Space travel? Are you serious?
Surely you've heard of suspended animation, cryogenic freezing? It's a fairly common idea in science fiction books and films. People are sometimes frozen for especially lengthy journeys through space.
That was when Junpei understood what Ace was suggesting.
Whoa, wait a minute there.
Ace looked at him and raised an
Are
eyebrow.
you saying that Alice was frozen using that CAS thing?
Well, I'm sure the possibility is quite low, but it is a possibility. If this special ice you call Ice 9 does indeed exist, and CAS were used to freeze her into that sort of ice instantaneously.
You think she could be alive?
Well, I can't say for sure, of course. I'm only talking about possibilities. The melting point for Ice 9 is 96 degrees, right? If she were put somewhere where she could reach that temperature...
That's nuts. Are you really saying she could have defrosted and started walking about?
You're quite right. It does sound unbelievable. But if she had, then we would have an explanation for the man we found dead on the floor.
You mean the guy dressed like a captain?
Yes. He was dead when we found him. Clearly, he was murdered.
Clearly.
But if he was murdered, then by whom?
By whom?
It couldn't have been one of us. That would be impossible. In order to enter the captain's quarters, one must first open door 1. That door that requires the Earth key prevented us from accessing door 1. Who was it that opened that door?
Santa and Lotus.
Right. Clearly, the two of them could not have opened door 1, or any other door for that matter. Who else then could have done so?
Junpei thought for a second.
Nobody. After Santa and Lotus used the Earth key, they turned back and met up with me and June. Then we returned to the large hospital room found Ace, 7, and Clover. While we'd gone into the shower room, Ace, 7, and Clover had stayed behind. But it's impossible for those three to open door 1. But what about when June and I took the elevator to door 2? No, still won't work. We were only gone 5 minutes. No human being could have run to the captain's quarters, killed that guy in there, and run back that fast.
It would be impossible for any of us to be the murderer, that being the case. Who could have killed him? Wouldn't it make sense if his killer was someone who had been in the ship for some time? A person like that would know the ship well. They would know the locations of all the hidden passages and secret doors. The numbered door would mean nothing to someone like that. It would be a simple thing for them to enter the captain's quarters.
Then you're saying the killer was Alice?
It was Junpei's turn to raise an eyebrow. Ace drew his thumb across his lips thoughtfully.
Well, This is all only one possible theory.
All ice. Alice, is she really somewhere on the ship?
Junpei only one clue. The keycard in his hand.
This card will give me access to the Forest of Knowledge and the big mystery. What
The
could
big
be there
mystery.
beyond the Forest of Knowledge? Anyway, whatever. It's gonna have to wait. I can't do anything right now. I'll come back to this later.
Yep. He gripped the key card tighter and shoved it deep into his pocket.
Huh.
Junpei snorted with grim humor for the second time since he came into the room.
Well, even if he wasn't one of us, there's no way that man could be Zero.
Interesting.
Huh?
Don't you get it? The letters that spell Zero on the TV screen, the captain's clothes he's got on, and of course, the bracelet with a zero on it. It's too obvious. Look, this is Zero right here. This dead body is Zero. Isn't that kind of fishy?
You're right. Only an idiot wouldn't see through something like that.
Indeed.
No, that's not the point. So I'm not trying to make fun of them for thinking a trick like this would work. I'm sure they didn't think it would work, which makes me wonder.
Why did they do it?
I think this is a challenge. A challenge from the person who's really behind all of this. He's making fun of us. Don't you get it? If whoever killed this guy really wanted us to think this corpse was Zero, they'd never have put a bracelet on him. Walking around with a Zero bracelet would be like hanging a sign around your neck that said, "I did it!" Anyone with a brain would be able to see that this guy is supposed to look like everything Zero is supposed to be.
Right.
Just like we did. The killer must have known we wouldn't think he was Zero and put the bracelet on him anyway. Do you know why?
Why?
Like I said, he's mocking us. Too bad, suckers, this isn't Zero.
Where's the real me then? See if you can catch me.
It's the same bad joke a lot of criminals like to play. They'll just sit back and watch people run in circles.
That's really twisted. But it almost seems kind of childish.
Yeah, you're right. It's really childish. It's like it's just a game to whoever this person is. That's what seems funny to me. All right, let's get back to the point. Who killed this man?
I don't know.
And what's this guy's deal? Who is he?
How would I know that? If I knew anything, I would have told you.
You have no idea who he is.
Why would I?
We should check and see if he's got anything on him that might tell us who he is. Give me a hand here, Clover.
Huh?
We gotta flip him over. How else are we gonna search his pockets? Okay, fine. Guess I'll do it. Here we go. Huh?
Something fell from the man's left wrist.
It's the...
Bracelet with the zero on the face.
Lastly, let us discuss how to remove the bracelets. There are only two ways to do so. One, you escape from this ship. Two, your heartbeat reaches zero. In other words, once the bracelet is taken outside the confines of the ship, or it detects that the mirror's heartbeat has fallen to zero, it will shut down automatically.
Okay.
God. This man. He's dead, isn't he?
Huh?
No, it's just I guess I didn't really think about it until right now. If his bracelet's off, that means he's dead.
Well, it's pretty obvious that he's dead. You don't really need to look at his bracelet to figure out that he's dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess you're right. It is pretty obvious. Well, he looks a lot better than the other bodies we've seen, though. You know?
Hmm.
I mean, if there wasn't all this blood, he almost looked like he was still alive. I mean, I know it's kind of a messed up thing to say, but he kind of has it better, you know? Dying from a bomb going off inside of you? I mean, that's just... Some of Snake's bones went right through his skin. I think the explosion must have thrown him against a wall or something. There was a broken bone just sticking out of his left arm. And...
Suddenly Junpei realized what he was saying. How could he have been so cruel? But it was already too late. He turned to look at Clover. She's glaring at him
What did you
furious.
just say?
Her words sounded cold. He knew an apology could hardly atone for what he'd done, but he tried anyway.
I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have said that. I really don't know what I was thinking. I mean...
No, that's not what I'm talking about. What did you say about his arm?
Arm?
Yes, his left arm. You said it, didn't you?
Well, yeah, I did, but... I mean, didn't you see it too?
Of course not. I could barely look at him. There's no way I was gonna see the details. Are you sure it was his left arm?
Junpei thought back.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was.
And he had a broken bone, right?
What the hell are you getting at here?
Just shut up and answer me!
She shoved her face closer to his. He could see the fire in her eyes.
Did. It was pretty bad, too. The bone was sticking out of the arm.
No sooner were the words out of his mouth than Clover's expression changed.
What's wrong? Look, I'm sorry if I said anything.
Suddenly she was crying. Junpei wasn't sure what to do.
Thank you.
It was close to the last thing he had expected to hear.
Huh? What are you...
Junpei had no idea what just happened. He didn't think he'd done anything worthy of thanks, and he couldn't understand why she would have chosen that moment to be crying. So he simply stood there confused.
Thank you so much, Junpei.
Really? Why? She thanked him again, and then something even stranger happened. Clover threw herself into Junpei's surprised arms.
Hey, what's going on with you?
I'm sorry, it's just... I'm so happy.
She's so happy.
Why?
The body in the shower room, it isn't his. It isn't my brother.
Huh?
It's not Snake.
Why on earth would you think that?
Because his left arm is...
She stopped herself.
Sorry. I really shouldn't be talking about this.
Junpei decided it would be prudent not to press her for any more information. She did not wish to tell him. She certainly had a reason for doing so. Perhaps more importantly, however, if Clover was so certain, then she was likely right. That meant that the body in the shower room wasn't Snake. It wasn't much, but that knowledge lifted some of the weight from Junpei's heart.
He's still alive. I'm so happy.
Tears shone in her eyes. Those tears melted Junpei's heart. She cried. She had pushed herself up against his chest like a child. Junpei put his arms around her and held her tight.
I'm so glad.
Huh?
Junpei, you were right.
Huh?
No matter what happens, you can never lose hope. You have to remember what's most important, and that's to have faith and to have love.
And that'll bring you luck?
If you can remember all of those, that'll bring you good luck.
Clover reached into her pocket and pulled something out.
That's...
It was a laminated bookmark with a 4-leaf clover.
I only made it here because you gave me this.
Wow, if that's all it took, man, I don't know.
I was suspicious of everybody. I was angry and miserable, but because I had this 4-leaf clover, because of what you said to me,
Yeah.
Junpei hadn't thought his words would have had such an effect on her. Her words were making him feel a little awkward.
Thank you so much, Junpei.
She looked up at him. He scratched his nose and pretended to notice something interesting somewhere else in the room.
If you really want to thank somebody, you should be thanking Santa.
Santa? Why?
Well, he was the one who gave me that thing. And the words for each leaf, I got that from him too.
Oh.
Then suddenly, Clover broke away from Junpei.
Huh?
He looked confused. He hadn't thought she'd reacted that poorly. Clover began to pace across the room. Six steps to the left, 6 steps to the right, another 6 to the left, and then she stopped.
Did Santa really tell you those things?
Yes. Her eyes were serious but not
Yeah,
angry.
He did. Did I say something wrong?
Oh no, not at all. In fact, this could be really good news. I think.
You think?
Santa knew about the words and the clover. The only people who should know about that are the other subjects.
Subjects?
The other people who were in the experiment 9 years ago, with my brother and me. But he's blind, and I was part of the Nevada test group, so neither of us would be able to recognize the faces of the people who were on this boat.
Whoa. Okay, time out.
Yeah, time out. This is a whole lot of new information. Junpei held up his hands. He took a deep breath and let it
Let's
out.
just calm down for a second, okay?
Yeah, we're in the middle of flow.
Start from the top. Don't start with the end and then jump to the middle. You gotta start with 1 and then move to 2 and 3 and 4 and so on. If you don't tell me stuff in the right order, I'm never gonna be able to figure it out.
Okay.
Clover
All
nodded.
right, let's start with this experiment.
Oh boy.
What happened on this boat 9 years ago?
Do you know about morphogenetic fields?
Morphogenetic fields.
He did, and the realization sent chills down Junpei's spine.
All right, how about this? Theory of the telepathic mechanism.
I think Lotus mentioned something like that.
Junpei recounted what Lotus had told him earlier. Clover nodded.
Telepathy, huh? Well, that's not really it, but I suppose it's similar.
So they were testing telepathy on this ship?
Yeah, I guess so.
So, what exactly did they have you guys do?
The same thing that we're doing now. Exactly the same thing.
What?
The Nonary game. 9 people were put on this boat, and 9 others were put in the building in Nevada, and the game started.
Junpei grabbed the sides of his head.
Look, I'm sorry, but I don't get it. What do the Nonary game and some telepathy experiment have to do with each other? Am I missing something here?
Clover bit her lip. She blinked back, sudden tears. What had happened to her in
The
Nevada?
ability to access a morphogenetic field is affected by a couple of things. The first is epiphany, and the other is danger. You know how sometimes when you're up against a really tough problem, and then the answer just kind of pops in your head? That's an epiphany. And what you learn from the epiphany can be translated with telepathy. When you add danger to that equation, then it gets easier to transmit that information over telepathy.
So you're saying the Nonary game was supposed to introduce that element of danger?
Yeah, but it couldn't be just any old danger. It had to be life and death. And someone did actually die. A girl.
Junpei felt the sudden grip of despair on his heart. Something deep and distant and powerful squeezed, and for a moment he felt very, very empty and alone.
She was on the boat with my brother. I was in Nevada. I never met her, but I did hear her name. Her name was...
The sound of the door opening was like a gunshot. Junpei spun around. Ace.
Oh, my apologies. I seem to have disturbed you.
Ace.
You two must have strong stomachs. I can't imagine how you could stay in this room for so long.
Ace glanced down at the floor. The corpse covered in blood.
At any rate, Junpei, would you be so kind as to come and help me with something?
Oh,
I'm having a little trouble, and I could really use your assistance. Come on. It'll only take a moment.
That he turned and walked back toward the communications office. Clover waited until he was out of sight, then spoke in a small, quiet
I
voice.
don't want Ace to hear us. We can talk about this later.
Huh? Hey, wait.
Clover ignored him. From outside, Junpei could hear Ace
Junpei?
call.
What are you doing in there? Hurry up.
Ugh. Grumbling to himself, Junpei stumped off toward the communications office. Alright, we got all the keys. You know what? I am going to stop the stream here because I think we have over an hour of content left. And I'm going to do that when I'm less tired. So we're going to go ahead and stop here, and then hopefully tomorrow we're going to get the ending of the game. The true ending of the game. Man, this game is far less complex than some of the like Virtues or Zero Time Dilemma. Whew boy. Okay, cool. Alright, I'll see y'all next time. Bye.